Okay, so on my last video, I talked about how I've come to realize that I've had more trauma in my youth than I realized. I've never had a major traumatic event. So I didn't realize until through therapy that there's such things as little traumas or little T's that, as opposed to big T's, that really can add up and take a toll on your mental health as well. So, once I've learned that, I learned about something that people with a history of trauma have something called paralysis of initiation. And I've really struggled with major procrastination issues. I used to blame it on my drinking. Now I'm 11 plus months sober. I'm still really struggling with it. So, what this is those with paralysis of initiation. They're not self-starters. And the reason for that is because we've lived in a world where the goal is not accomplishment, but it's been survival. And I'm reading off my phone notes. This could be disastrous. So when the goal is survival, you build an organism that is reactive. And it feels like you're just waiting for the next bad thing to happen, or you're just trying to survive the next storm and the next storm. I can completely appreciate that when I was in the throes of drinking, which is trauma in itself, so in the end, just trying to survive every day. I've learned procrastination is not laziness in many cases. It is a trauma response. And this paralysis of initiation is a natural response rooted in the brain's survival instincts. When the brain's conditioned to focus on immediate safety, planning for the future can feel overwhelming and even threatening. And trauma often heightens the activity of the amygdala, which is the brain's alarm system, while reducing the function of the prefrontal cortex, which handles decision-making and forward thinking. This goes right in line with what I've spoken about in the past. I have a video here on neuroscience that talks about the midbrain. The midbrain is responsible for survival, and that's the place that prioritizes alcohol. For those of us with the disorder, prioritize alcohol is number one priority, even ahead of food, water, etc. And when you get a craving, when you're in the throes of addiction, it shuts down your prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for your rational thought and your willpower, and you're left at the mercy of your midbrain, which has no free will. And guess where the amygdala sits? In the midbrain as well. So just to recap, trauma heightens activity in the amygdala, in the midbrain, and gets focused on immediate safety, i.e. survival, reduces the function of the prefrontal cortex, which has your decision-making and rational thought. So it's amazing the parallel there. So what then happens, this imbalance leads survivors to feeling stuck, uncertain, and hesitant to believe in the possibility of change. So spot on. I used to say, when the throes of drinking, I didn't want to die, but I was waiting to die. I never thought anything was going to change. Felt completely hopeless. So, over time, the repeated inability to control challenging circumstances can lead to avoidance and a sense of helplessness. Essentially, after trauma, we get stuck in the freeze response and its ensuing immobility and, again, helplessness. So we get habituated to that as a response to all kinds of stress, and not even just traumatic stress. So we forget how to fight or flight in response to a challenge, fight or flee. We lose the ability to engage active responses that are empowering and self-directed. Instead, we develop a chronic sense of powerlessness and learned helplessness. Not because that's who we are, but that's all we can be, because it's the neurobiological imprint of trauma on our bodies. That explains so much to me. Just say, I used to have such great work ethic. I still do in many areas. Running is my greatest example. I can train for a marathon like that and be so disciplined. But I can in many other areas, including getting work done and being productive. I used to be a machine, and I still can be at times. But there's times, I think it helps explain, where my prefrontal cortex just seems shut down. And all I'm about is just surviving the day. And again, I'm 11 plus months now of sobriety, so I think it's something I just have to continue to be patient with and get beyond just being in pure survival mode. And that's something I'm working on in therapy and talking out within my sober community. I ended my last call talking about that. I'm very lucky. We are the luckiest to have this little drinking problem that makes us allergic to poison, because it caused us to essentially, anyone that's in a sober community, it's essentially group support. We don't just talk about drinking all day. We talk about our problems. And fortunately, if you don't have a drinking problem, there's other ways to seek this out. But I never would have if I wasn't forced to because of my drinking. But there are. I belong to Better Health because I have poor health insurance, so I pay out of pocket. They're very reasonable. You can plead poverty, and you can get up to about a 35% discount by emailing them. And they also have all kinds of group support sessions, including on trauma and other addictions. So highly recommend, or if you're not in that, then you Google, and there's other stuff out there, and there's plenty of free resources. So a few other notes that I've learned is that, they say you're not healing to be able to handle trauma. You're used to it. You're healing to be able to handle joy. And that's big. I struggle with handling, joy. I'm going to be coming up in a year, and I'm already dreading, all the acclaim I'm going to get. And side note, Brene Brown, who's a great author, said, one thing that helps you handle joy is having a gratitude practice, which I do have via continually saying we are the luckiest. But so all this work is going to help me, deal and experience joy for the rest of my life, and ideally help overcome, my procrastination and paralysis issues. And I'll end it by saying, another great meme I saw said, someone said, I finally entered the phase where I just want to be around kind people who keep it real and love to grow. The only people I think who are cool now are those who focus on building emotional intelligence, unbinding past trauma, and gaining insight through self-awareness. So again, those of us that have alcoholism issues are among the luckiest. And if you don't, I encourage you to seek group support or direct therapy in other ways. So guess that'll do it. One thought, awareness is the key to starting the healing process. I used to say, what good is it to talk about my trauma? But I've since learned awareness is huge. That's gotten me to talking about it. And now gradually I'm overcoming it. And I plan to overcome this procrastination issue in the process. So that's it. As always, please like, share, subscribe, and remember, stronger, sober. Thanks.